Welcome to another edition of Head On. I'm your host, Ian Holmes. Vancouver Island University, it's a huge part of the fabric of life here on mid-Vancouver Island in Nanaimo, a Parksville-Qualicum area, and the campus has some pretty ambitious goals to expand over the next 50 years or so, which includes some near-term goals as well. And to learn a little bit more, we'll have a conversation now with Dan Hurley, the Executive Director of University Relations with Vancouver Island University. And Dan, this is a very widespreading document, the VIU Campus Master Plan. Just offer viewers a snapshot about what this includes here.
Sure. The campus plan that we have out was developed in 2008, 2009, about 4 or 5 years ago, shortly after the university became the Malaspina College became Vancouver Island University. So really, as you said, it's a long-term plan for the future of our Nanaimo campus, which is at the heart of our institution. So really, the plan was there to try to encapsulate that transition from college to university in our buildings and in the design for the property. Our campus, of course, is located on the south end of the city, with a fairly high elevation. It's been there for over 40 years now, having transitioned from again a technical vocational college and a university transfer college into a full-fledged university. So our plan really lays out our immediate needs, but also our long-term vision for what the property could be. It helps to embrace not only our academic plans for the future, programming that we're going to offer. It also helps to embrace the community, the importance of our connection to the Nanaimo and Vancouver Island communities, but it also helps to take better advantage of our physical environment. So taking advantage of the beauty of our environment, but also the wildlife and the sustainability features of the campus. So it's a comprehensive plan. Again, there's short-term goals, medium-term and long-term goals that are part of it.
Well, let's talk about some of the new structures, and I know there's three real key elements, Dan, that VIU administration pushing for over the next number of years. Just explain a little bit about what those components of the master plan are.
Sure. Well, part of the master plan, it is an evolving document. So as time goes on, it will change. But in terms of our immediate plans, projects that we want to move forward with in the next couple of years, number one is to construct a new health and science center. Which will be a new location for our growing science program. So that's in biology, environmental studies, chemistry, biology, but also a home for health and human services faculty. We have a growing nursing and other related services programs. So that facility is much needed because the facilities they're currently in, particularly in the science faculty, are getting to the end of their useful life. Those buildings were built in the late 70s when, again, we were still a college, but they're reaching the point where they're almost obsolete. So we have growing programs, we have a growing emphasis on science education. There's more of a demand for science education now in the workplace. We have excellent faculty we've been able to attract here, and our student success rate in that faculty has been phenomenal. A lot of our students get the kind of hands-on experience in labs and so forth, and with high-level researchers that you wouldn't get at a larger university.
So, Dan, can you expand a little bit on the timeline? Because this is a 50-year build-out that includes a lot of longer-range visions like housing and a commercial core, as I understand. But there's also some more immediate needs you guys are looking at, and you touched on that. So kind of put our viewers through a little bit of a time lapse about what you guys want to build, what and when.
So like I said, the immediate plan is to create a new facility for our science and health and human services area. We have also a growing and continuing need to deliver our trades and applied technology programs, everything from carpentry to automotive to culinary. So we also will need new facilities in that area as well, as equipment needs and facility needs are always evolving. But also we need to replace our athletic facilities as well. Again, the gym that we have, which is home to our successful Mariners program, was also built in a certain period of time, and it's also getting to the end of its life. So we'd like to not only build a new gym for our teams, but also to create a wellness center that would be part of that, which would be not only accessible to the university, but to the wider community. Could potentially include a medical clinic too, which is sorely needed, not only for our students and faculty, but for the local community, the Harewood community in the area. So those are sort of our immediate needs, but again, there's also plans to be able to eventually replace some of our other facilities as well. You also spoke of the housing and residential component. I think that's a key component. Certainly for student housing, and we have about 350 students who live on campus right now and in our Western student housing. We could easily double that and fill it immediately with the demands that we have, not only for domestic students but for international students as well. But part of our residential plan also incorporates how do we allow for non-students to be able to live on campus, a little like at Simon Fraser University, where they have the university concept, where there's homes, a variety of different types of housing units that are affordable and that can allow for sort of mixed development in that area, which I think is critical. But that's a little further down the line.
To touch upon a little bit on this trade center, this is very interesting. We hear all the time about trade shortages all across British Columbia, and this is seen as a way to fill that void. What exactly would this entail, do you see now?
Well, I think, first of all, you're absolutely right. The skills need in this part of the province on the island and more broadly is critical. And we're unique. We're uniquely placed as a university that continues to offer our trades facilities. So that's something we're very proud of. We continue to want to expand. So we need probably new facilities for our welding program, for example, facilities as well for a variety of other programs, and not only here in Nanaimo but also in the other places we serve, Cowichan Valley, Powell River, and so forth. So those facilities are really critical. We've had some investments from government, just even recently in terms of upgrading equipment, but in terms of the facilities, they do need to expand. They do need to be modernized.
Now, the funding model aspect of this is so important to get this thing off the ground. So when you lobby government, business, and the like with this proposal, just explain that process and what you see a possible funding breakdown to pay for these initiatives. And also adding to that, is this costed yet? Do you have a ballpark figure of what you're looking to pay for this down?
Yeah, I think, again, the plan that we have is a long-term plan. It's a vision of where we would like to see ourselves in 50-odd years. But in terms of implementation, it's very much one where you have to be practical. You have to determine, what's feasible in the short term, what are things that can be planned for the future. So that's why we've chosen those 3 or 4 projects as our priority, to say nothing of the regular needs to just keep the university operating. But for example, in terms of the Science and Health Center, we've costed that out to about $90 to $95 million to complete it to the standards that we're hoping for. There's science centers, science education centers across the country are more expensive because of the requirements for safety, requirements for health standards, and so forth. To make that happen, it is a multi-prong approach in terms of funding. There's no question we're going to need support from governments. Provincial government obviously is a key stakeholder, the government of Canada as well, in terms of getting money for research as well as potentially for infrastructure if the opportunity presents itself. But we need private partners, we need donors who have capacity to be able to give significantly, but we also want to go on a more broader campaign with the community to be able to say, hey, there's opportunities in having a world-class facility for science and health education right in your back door. So we will want to have conversations with the Health Authority, for example. We'll want to have conversations with municipalities, with First Nations and so forth about how they can be participants in that, whether it's financially directly or as partners in the programming. So it really is a comprehensive strategy to make these things work.
Now, where does this stand on the radar of senior levels of government, of the private sector? It is still somewhat of a relatively new plan. Is it out there in the full front public of these entities that you're seeking funds from?
Yeah, we're actively having conversations with all those parties now, and certainly over the next, that's going to be our focus over the next year to 2 years to make this work. Again, it's an ambitious plan. It's going to take time to make it happen, but I'm talking to you today. That's part of that discussion to bring that to the wider community, the importance of this, not only this facility, but the overall plan. But it takes time to get there, and I think we're starting to move in that direction.
I just think about this, and I've seen some of the pictures that are out and how this will potentially really change Nanaimo, Dan. And of course, this is at the height of the plan. It's about 50 years out. But just talk a little bit about how this will change this city, the fabric, the culture, really shifting towards being a true university town, Dan. This could really have a massive change on the Mid-Island, wouldn't it?
I think you're absolutely right. I think it is significant. And at the core of our plan has been the community and its future. In the development of the plan, We did extensive consultation with the city, with First Nations, with a variety of stakeholders to develop the plan. So they were involved in helping to shape this plan. But to make it happen, they will have to be involved as we go forward. I think in terms of what it will do for the city, once again, having these assets right here in our backyard are significant. Number one, for attracting students. We want to be able to attract more and more of our students who live here in this community to choose VIU as a place to not only maybe start the university career, but also to go through and get a bachelor's degree, master's degree, come back and work here, teach here, and so forth. That's really critical. So that will help in terms of being able to attract students that are from the region, but also to attract them from other regions as well. Number two, to be able to attract more international students. You know, approximately 12% of our student population now is international. It's significant, not only because they bring their tuition with them, but they also invest in the community in terms of what they put back into the community with living here, living in the community, and so forth. But again, attracting them here to be researchers, to plan a future here is really critical. It's also important for attracting faculty. So if we want top-flight academics who have a background in a variety of these areas, you need to have the facilities to go with it. So. But that's to say nothing of the other activities that will come along, conferences, seminars, and so forth. They bring dollars to our city in the hospitality sector, but also housing and so forth. So I think it's really critical, as well as to be able to integrate with a number of the other activities that are happening in the region.
And in terms of what this physically will look like, I understand a number of the older buildings will obviously need to be taken down. Some of them are quite ancient, Dan, and building up as opposed to out, and more green spaces and the like. So just explain for our viewers how that's going to look physically and really building towards the future that way as well.
So let's use the science, again, it's the most appropriate example. So most of our science activities happening sort of on the upper campus towards the Nanaimo Parkway. So if you take a walk around the campus these days, there are a number of buildings that are sort of along that corridor there that are currently being used for science education. Once our new building is open, all of those activities will go into the new building, and those buildings will come down, and most of that space will be returned to a natural space. So again, to allow for more green, space for people to interact, but also for the wildlife in the area. It's a wildlife corridor. We want to be able to return it back to that factor. But also to help to bring some focus to the Center for Shellfish Research and the International Center for Sturgeon, which are up at the top of the campus too. They've got a campus up there that we want to continue to build. So it'll be a bit of a division there, but it will help to integrate the natural state with some of the new activities that were happening there. The idea too is, in the longer term, is to create a corridor that goes down the middle of the campus, down the hill. So there's a number of other buildings there. For example, our cafeteria and our administration building is also within the plan to change. That building that's there, Building 300 we call it, will eventually come down. And it has to come down to allow for that corridor to happen. But again, that's a little bit further off in the future.
Lastly, before I let you go, Dan, competing with other large universities. I mean, it's fine that you look to expand VIU, but it's a very competitive market, sure, as we know. And you talked about that battle for attracting international students in general, to your campus, and other university facilities are expanding as well. You got a heated Vancouver market. So how does VIU come in and find the sustainable model and have a sustainable future moving ahead, Dan?
Yeah, well, I think you're right. Absolutely, that we're in a competitive market. There's many other universities out there, but I think we have a really good case in terms of what we offer, in terms of what makes us unique. Certainly in terms of our focus on being a community-based teaching university on Vancouver Island. You know, the fact that we have Vancouver Island in our name makes it a lot easier to get in the door now when everyone knows where Vancouver Island is. And our focus on connections with coastal communities. Our connection with Aboriginal people and Aboriginal education are critical. But also to be able to tell the story of just how successful we're doing in areas like science education, as well as a variety of our other faculties. So we've got a great story to tell. When you have a great story to tell, it makes it a lot easier to get in the door. So we're going to continue to work with governments, to find opportunities with governments, but more importantly, we're also going to be working with individuals, with the private sector, with others that share our vision. There's a lot of people in this region who come from other places and choose here to retire, who probably have some capacity, and they may not yet have a connection with our university, but we hope to connect with those people and just show them what a great asset they have in their backyard.
Dan Hurley, Executive Director of University Relations at Vancouver Island University. This is an issue, the VIU Campus Master Plan, we're going to be hearing so much more about in the months and years ahead, and revisions to that plan this year. So look forward to hearing more details about that. Dan, thanks so much for coming on the program.
Thank you, Ian.
Dan Hurley with VIU. That is another edition of Head On Shaw TV. I'm Ian Holmes. Thanks so much for tuning in.